Congratulations to Blue Scapegoats for winning the Protagonist Drawing Contest. Be sure to check out their Tumblr down below. It is linked in the description for some awesome fan art. Hello everybody, it is Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, back with another Q&A. I do these Q&A videos once every month, so this will be the January Q&A. I believe it is Q&A number 11, where you guys ask me a bunch of questions, and I gather as many as I can, and then I respond to them. So thank you to everyone for asking questions in the last video. Please, if you are going to ask me a question, just leave the Q&A symbol before your question, so I know to put it in the Q&A video, and it's just impossible for me to gather every single question and answer every single question that I get. I'd love to do it, but the video would be like 3 hours and it would be just way too time consuming, and I'd still miss questions because of the YouTube comment system, which, if you're not aware, sometimes YouTube just doesn't show creators all the comments that are on screen, and it's kind of bizarre. But so if I did miss your question, I do apologize. I do try to answer as many as I can, and I am thankful for you guys always asking me these questions. So we are going to get right into it. You guys can answer as many of these as you want, and I hope you do choose to answer a few of these down below in the comments. I will talk to you down there because I do like to hear what you guys have to say to these questions as well. Some of them are personal and some of them are more general that I think pretty much everyone in the community could have an opinion on. So hopefully you guys do choose to answer a few, and hopefully you guys do choose to ask me some questions that could potentially be on Q&A number 12. But anyway, we're going to get right into it. So Flash Greninja asks, and this is the title of the video, I always title it based on the first question that I answer: do you like the idea of the main protagonist also being the main antagonist, or would you have preferred that Arc 5 would have had a different something different? And I'm sure Flash Greninja just means would have done something different, but I do actually, and I was talking to someone else about this, and someone kind of, I think they argued with me on it, when I say argument, I just mean a little back and forth conversation where they said they liked this whole concept, and I have to admit I liked it. Maybe it's just that I feel it was poorly executed, but hear me out. I feel like I would have much rather seen, because you have all these individual characters, all these characters that we care about as fans. A lot of people, love Yugo. A lot of people love Yuri. A lot of people love Yuto, and the guy was, killed off pretty much in episode 37. And the Bracelet Girls. We didn't even see Rory and Rin till forever, but yet you see how much love these girls get in the community. I would have loved a situation where you have these 8 characters, and I guess Yuri and even Serena, maybe Serena turned on them at some point, and the main goal was Leo Akaba. Leo Akaba wasn't the main antagonist. Someone above him was the main antagonist. Maybe a Darkness, someone like him, maybe who was possessing Leo Akaba, or just another human person who was controlling things. I don't want to say Seto Kaiba. I'm not going to say Seto Kaiba, but someone like that. Someone who was above Leo Akaba. And you have all these characters, the legacy characters included. You could keep the same storyline, but don't have the merging. Maybe the reason the counterparts exist, you can say another reason. Maybe like all 4 of the counterparts have to come together, kind of like Yuma and Astral did to form this new, they would form some kind of person. They would become, you could even keep the Zark element there, except Zark is not evil, and you could keep the Ray element, and the 4 Bracelet Girls in one body, and the 4 U-Boys in one body. They finally achieved that state of, they achieved Zexal. In 5Ds, it was Clear Mind. In GX, I guess you could say it was whatever you want to call it with Yubel, but as another stage like that brings them to this higher level of, not higher level of being, but this stronger person, this stronger persona, and that's what's able to defeat the final antagonist. And all the while you have all of these emotions, or you could do something differently like that, where maybe these characters start getting killed off one by one, and you could have Rin reacting to Yugo losing a duel to Yuri, and Yugo properly getting carded, or properly getting, sent to the stars, as the dub would say, and then you have this really powerful scene. I just feel like it was executed, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of things, because we still do have 10, 11 episodes left, but I feel like the execution hasn't been as good as it could have been, because the last 20 or 30 episodes, the Bracelet Girls have had no impact on the show at all. And when they have had an impact, they were brainwashed. They weren't really the Bracelet Girls. And those should be 4 of the main characters in the show. And then the 4 U-Boys, Yuto has been on and off. Yuya's been in this berserk mode, so it hasn't even really been Yuya. You have, and I know this is the premise of the show, so I know it's like, well, I mean, you're criticizing the whole premise of the show. I am. I personally, I'm a little biased here, and I wish they did something differently. But I want to hear from you guys down below. I want to hear from you guys, because I feel like we haven't seen, like, for instance, that Yuya and Yuto versus Serena and Rory duel. that duel, Serena and Rory were brainwashed, so it wasn't really them. Yuya was in berserk mode pretty much the second half of the duel along with Yuto, so it wasn't even really them. And I guess, yes, you have the whole concept of Zark versus, well, I mean, they're brainwashed. That wasn't even right. That was just a stupid plot that was going on in the background that really had no relevance at all in hindsight. But I don't know, guys. It is interesting that they made the main protagonist the main antagonist from a perspective that you have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea how this show is really going to end, which I like that aspect of it, but I wish they were maybe all individual characters going after one villain, and it wasn't Leo Akaba, it was someone above him, and you could have Yuri and Serena as, you know, traitors and going against them, and maybe they have to break through to Yuri and Serena and combine with them to actually stop this, you know, atrocity that's going on, which would be destroying the world or controlling the world or whatever it may be. I would have liked something along those lines. Obviously, it's not the route they went, and in hindsight, you know, the truth is I would have written Zexal a bit differently. I would have written 5Ds, GX, and Duel Monsters all a bit differently. There's things, that's why looking at a show in hindsight is kind of dangerous, because there's always going to be things as a viewer that you would change, and something that maybe I would change is something that, you know, a fan to my left would not change, or a fan to my right would not change. So, you guys let me know about that, but definitely an interesting question. Basically, how would you have rewritten Arc 5? Would you have kept this main protagonist, antagonist thing, or would you have had a different main antagonist that had no relationship to Yuya and the U-Boys? So Atemi YGO asks, and when you ask a few questions, I mostly just pick one. I'm going to answer the first one. Do you think the reason Zexal gets a lot of slack is due to the horrible dubbing, or do you think it was due to the massive jump from edgy and serious nature of 5Ds to lighthearted but still serious of Zexal that caused it? Well, Zexal, see, here's the issue with Zexal, and the reason, and as you guys know, I'm not being critical of it, I enjoyed all the shows. The reason I think that Zexal does get a lot of hate is because of the dub, but I also think it's because of Yuma. I think a lot of people jumped off the bandwagon because, as you say, it's lighthearted but still serious. It doesn't get very serious until maybe the 25, 30 episodes in. And I think that slow start, because by the end of it, Zexal is very good. I really think Zexal is one of the better, you know, end pieces in Yu-Gi-Oh! But the beginning was so slow, and a lot of people, I think, were turned off by Yuma's character, because it wasn't even the jump from 5Ds. Duel Monsters, you had Yugi and Atem, you know, these more mature-looking protagonists. Then you had Judai. Then you had Yusei. So you had the three really mature-looking protagonists. Then you jumped to Yuma, who has maybe not the most inviting look. He has a look that's, you know, and I was excited for it at the time because I was like, all right, it's a different take on it. It's a younger character, which is why I've wanted an older character now that we've gotten back-to-back younger looking characters, and I'm glad we do have that with Yu-Gi-Oh! 6. But I think a lot of people were turned off about it. It's like, oh, he's just a kid. He has no idea how to duel. He's a bit of a clown. And if you've watched him in the dub, he's very annoying in the dub. And so I think that did turn, I think it's more the beginning. I think Zexal got off to a very slow start, and a lot of people jumped off the bandwagon, which is a shame. And then you also have the fans that have not seen a single episode of Zexal, and Arc 5 for that matter, and even 5Ds to some extent, and are just gonna rip on it like, oh, everything, you know. I actually wanted to ask you guys, because Gen 1ers is, I know, a term that they use for first-gen Pokemon fans, who say that after the first gen of Pokemon, everything in Pokemon sucks. Is there a term for, like, first-gen Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans that only watch Duel Monsters and hate, or only watch Duel Monsters and GX and just hate, blindly hate on the rest of the shows? Because if there is, we should create a term. As a community, I feel like we should create a term like Pokemon has Gen 1ers. Maybe there is a term out there, but I think that's what it is. And it's the same thing's gonna happen with Yu-Gi-Oh! 6. People aren't gonna see it, and people are still gonna comment on the videos on YouTube of the duels and such that say, oh, I miss old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Man. But these are gonna be the people that have not watched since Duel Monsters, that have not watched since the mid-2000s. So Zexal does get a lot of hate. It's a bit unfortunate, but I think that slow start is one of the main reasons why it does get a lot of hate, which is unfair, honestly. The Lion Turtle asks, out of these three scenes, which would you say is the saddest? Atem departing to the afterlife, Rio's death in Season 3, or Bruno's death on the Arc Cradle? I will be doing top 10, top 5 saddest moments at one point. I think someone actually later in this Q&A, it actually might be the very next question, asks me if my top 5 lists are done, which they're not, and I'll get more into what I plan to do with them at a point in time. I would say Bruno's death. That scene, man, that was, I mean, the reason why is that was a permanent death scene. So when you look back in hindsight, you look at Marufuji Rio and you say, well, his death wasn't permanent. He randomly got revived in Season 4. The Atem one was sad, but there was more of like more of an acceptance sad. Like, you can accept that he's moving on. He's not necessarily dying. I guess you could say he is kind of dying because he is departing to the afterlife, but he's always going to be living on through Yugi Muto. Bruno's death, Bruno's gone. He's gone. And so it would be between Bruno's death and Atem departing for me, even though Rio's death, that is my favorite duel in GX. Rio's death, that is a very good scene. These are honestly three very powerful, well-done moments throughout Yu-Gi-Oh! History. Well, it was next. I guess I got pretty good memory when I was going through and screenshotting these. Q&A from Fender Bullet. Whatever happened to all those top 5s you kept saying you would make? At this point, you probably have around 20 of those to make. Another way of putting it is, are you going to do those still or not? So if you guys didn't know, I started on Clueless Gamers. My first video was out in December. It's still up on YouTube, of course, until it gets taken down. If hopefully it never will get taken down. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX top 5 duels. And my only involvement with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime was going to be top 5 lists every 3 to 4 weeks. So in January, I did top 5 duels in 5Ds. Eventually, I got around to Duel Monsters, Zexal, all the shows but Arc 5. I've put them on hold because, like, top 5 saddest moments, darkest moments, antagonists, I can't use clips anymore, guys. I'm only going to use clips for theories, and I am going to stick with that. So instead of doing top 5 lists, I'm going to do top 10 lists. It's just going to be more details, more content for you guys to enjoy, because I feel bad that I can't include clips anymore. I enjoyed that part of it, but I can't do clips. It's just too risky. Unfortunately, I do believe it does fall under fair use, but for those top 5 lists, I won't be using clips, but they will be top 10 lists. So I'll be doing my top 10 favorite antagonists, top 10 darkest moments, and this will be throughout all 5 Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows. But I can't do that until Arc 5 ends. I want to give Arc 5 a fair chance. And once Arc 5 ends, that entire week after the show is over, I'll be doing top 10 saddest moments in Arc 5, top 10 darkest moments in Arc 5, top 10 unanswered questions in Arc 5, top 10 disappointments in Arc 5, and then concluding with the top 10 duels in Arc 5. I don't know if that's the exact lineup, but it'll be a lineup along those lines. So I'm going to be bombarding you guys after Arc 5 ends, which it's going to be, I'm calling it the Arc 5 Bonanza week, where I'm just going to be overflowing you guys with Arc 5 vids to kind of send, and then I'll make me do a 3-minute video, properly sending off Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, because it is sad, and it is most likely over the last week of March. But, so those top 5 lists are not done, but they're kind of like theories. They're kind of like the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX video that I just uploaded, things you missed, things you didn't know, where they're just going to kind of pop up at random, not really a 3 to 4 week schedule, because now that I do the reviews, the cast list, the summaries, the podcast, these Q&As, I have a lot more Yu-Gi-Oh! Content to do and spend time in, and I do spend a good amount of time talking to you guys in the comments, which I do love to do. So there's not really a schedule for those top 5s anymore, but I promise they will resume, and they will be top 10s once Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 concludes. Ace Grit asks, will the main female be like Aki, Anzu, Asuka, Kotori, or Yuzu in the 6th series? Well, I want her to be like Aki, Asuka, or Yuzu in the sense that she duels. Kotori and Anzu were more supporting. The main, obviously, duelists in those shows were Mai and Rio. So I would want her to be like Aki, Asuka, or Yuzu. Again, in that sense that she duels, and hopefully she does not finish like those 3 characters finished, because after the first half of their shows, respectively, the writers did nothing with them. I mean, I think combined, Aki, Asuka, and Yuzu in the last, 70 episodes of their shows, respectively, I think they combined maybe to duel 5 times, which is absolutely absurd. So that's just off the top of my head. So hopefully she's like one of those 3 characters, but she duels throughout the entire show. Fat Snorlax asks, do you think Arc 5 stands up there with the other shows? For example, Duel Monsters is looked back upon fondly, mostly through rose-tinted glasses, by some fans as the best. In 10 years' time, say, will fans look back upon Arc 5 with the same affection? As always, some of the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Content out there, man. Stay awesome. Thank you so much, Snorlax. I think that nostalgia plays a big part in that. Now, Duel Monsters will always be the most popular Yu-Gi-Oh! Show in terms of ratings, in terms of how many people were watching, in terms of being known. That's objective. That's not objective. That's subjective. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. But to say it's the best, that's an opinion, and again, it goes back to, I don't want to keep using Gen 1ers. I just learned that term, and so I really like saying it. That's why I've used it 3 times during this video. But nostalgia plays a big part in that Duel Monsters. Duel Monsters was a good show. They were all good shows, but Duel Monsters had its issues. And I think the fans and I'll tell you, when your videos kind of blow up like my theories did, one has 250,000, the other has 160,000, you get so many cancerous comments that are just like, oh, Arc 5, all the shows after Duel Monsters sucked, oh, all the shows after GX sucked, Yu-Gi-Oh! Went to shit after GX, excuse my language, but these are the comments that I'll get like every 10 minutes from people. And these are the same people that have not watched an episode of 5Ds or an episode of Arc 5 or Zexal. So I think that the reason Duel Monsters is looked back so fondly is nostalgia. I think the fans that are caught up to Yu-Gi-Oh! Current day are maybe a little more hesitant to say Duel Monsters is the best show, and I'm talking about the fans that have watched all the series, dubbed and subbed, and not even dubbed and subbed, just watched all the series. But I actually think that there's going to be a lot of criticism looking back at Arc 5. Arc 5 is going to be one of those shows, I compare it to GX at the moment, that it had loads of potential, and it unfortunately fell short. Now, yes, we have 10 episodes left, so maybe I'm jumping the gun. I hope I'm jumping the gun. But I think that, but again, it's all opinion. Some people are going to love Arc 5. Because some people hate Zexal, but some people love Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. So, some people hate 5Ds, some people love 5Ds. It's all opinion, but I don't think that the majority of the fan base, 10 years from now, when we could be on like a Yu-Gi-Oh! 8 or 9, which would be awesome, are going to say that Arc 5 was the best spin-off. There are going to be some fans that say that. To me, it's probably the most personal spin-off, where that's kind of the way I was able to meet so many great people, and so it will always have a special place in my heart for that reason. But to look at it unbiased, like I always try to do, Arc 5, I think, is going to fall a little short on my top 5 Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows, I guess you could say, of probably, I mean, right now, it might even be towards the bottom half, but we'll see how Arc 5 ends. We'll see how it ends. I just don't think so, unless it has a really, really kick-ass last 10 or 11 episodes. Kolawoli Oluyudun asks, which ace monster out of the 5 series we've seen do you like the most? What do you think Yusaku's ace monster will be like? Thanks for all the work you put into your Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos. Hope you see this. Thank you. It is much appreciated. The ace monster that I like the most is either Neos or Dark Magician. I'm kind of over, or Utopia. I guess Utopia was pretty cool. Probably Dark Magician, believe it or not. I don't say OG monsters too often, but I really do like Dark Magician. I'm getting a little sick of the dragon, so I'm just hoping Yusaku's ace monster is not a dragon. If it's not a dragon, I will be happy. Would love to see another magician, honestly, or a spellcaster. Soulblade Nin asks, do you think Solid Vision will ever become a reality? According to Matt Pat's film theory of the Doctor Strange movie, there is some evidence that there is a way to make light solid via photons. I suggest giving it a watch. Follow-up question, if Action Duel ever became a reality, would you try it? I don't know enough about physics to say whether it will become a reality. I guess in 20 years, anything is possible. Technology moves very fast, but to answer, I'd have to watch Matt Pat. I know he's the game theorist guy. I haven't watched his film theories, but I like him. I think he makes some very well-made theories. I haven't watched him in a while, though. But if action dueling became a reality, absolutely. If they got holograms in real life, like where you could actually buy a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel disc and you put cards on it and holograms pop up in the real world, if that happened, I would try it. So, absolutely, I think it would be actually loads of fun to do action dueling in real life. Kamishiro Rio asks, for your next Q&A, what in your opinion was the saddest moment of Arc 5? Because you got to admit, Arc 5 did have some sad moments. For me, it was when Yuya discarded Smile World and had a breakdown in 135. How sad he looked. His father gave him a disappointed look and left. Man, Yuya's VA was so good at that app. Hit me right in the feels. Yeah, 135. Magnificent episode. I don't want to say what my saddest moment of the show was, because I will be doing a top 10 list on it once Arc 5 does conclude. That moment may make it. It may make it. But I don't really, so I apologize, Kamishir, but I don't want to answer too much more, because I will be making a formal top 10 list of my saddest moments in the show once the show does conclude. Violet Drosera. Hello, Dylan. The name of the new booster pack following Maximum Crisis has been revealed, which marks the beginning of the 6th series. It's called Code of the Duelist. What can you take away from this about Yusaku's Ace Monster or the nature of the 6th series? And if you don't know, the Maximum Crisis is the booster pack with Zark. It's the latest booster pack of Arc 5. I did know that. I think it comes out like January 14th, or actually it probably comes out this week in Japan, I think. But the only reason I know that is because when I watched the show live, they advertised it. But yeah, I haven't looked actually too much into it. I think some people have sent me it where like one of the cards is like a blank card, which it's like a card that you can use. I don't know. I forget the actual, like a card you can use in any deck, or it was something like that, unless I'm completely wrong. I don't know. I think it's going to be Yusaku's Ace Monster and the nature of the 6th series. I think there's going to be no new summoning methods, and I hope there's no new summoning methods. But I'm not going to speculate too much on this, because we are going to get a lot of information in V-Jump, which comes out, probably the leaks will come out in about a week. So that's when we will have a lot of good formal discussions about what to expect. We should be getting a good amount of information. So not going to speculate too much on it, but I actually did not remember the name of the booster pack. So Code of the Duelist. So that'll be interesting. And hopefully, again, it's just hopefully it's not a dragon. I'm a little over dragons at this point. No, no dragon, please. Nico Izuki, question, do you think Zexal Arc 5 ruined the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series? I really don't. I think Zexal and Arc 5 have been at par with the previous 3 shows. But this is coming from someone who's seen all the shows. A lot of people are never going to watch another Yu-Gi-Oh! Show, yet they still feel the need to write, cancerous comments, which again, if there's no term for those Duel Monster GX fanboys, we really need to come up with one as a community, just so we can comment that, and that'll be that, just to label those people, because they don't contribute anything to the community, those fans that have not seen, that have watched Duel Monsters dubbed until episode like 150, haven't even finished Duel Monsters, but yet feel the need to comment all these negative things. I don't believe they've ruined the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. I think Zexal and Arc 5 have uniquely done some really good things. Yes, Zexal is probably the most controversial show in terms of love and hate. Arc 5 is maybe a close second. And it's funny because I feel like a lot of people that hate Arc 5 are Zexal fans. I don't necessarily know why. And again, this is from what I see in the comment section, because again, I do really monitor my comments, guys, a lot more than I think a lot of people do. And I take pride in that because I do enjoy talking to you guys. And I see a lot of times when Arc 5 gets attacked, it usually is from hardcore Zexal fans. Not every time, but I don't really know why that is. So it'll be interesting to see when Yu-Gi-Oh! 6 comes out, if it's the hardcore Arc 5 fans that are the main criticizers of the 6th show. But no, you know what? There's hate in every community. There's hate in every community. I don't think they've ruined the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. I think you just have too many ignorant people that have not seen Zexal and Arc 5, and for that reason, aimlessly hate on the show. Because here's the thing. If you've watched Zexal and you didn't like it, that's fine. If you've watched Arc 5 and you didn't like it, that's fine. But just say, it didn't resonate with me. I just didn't like the show. There's no need to write something derogatory and comment something negative like, oh, if you watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, if that's your favorite show, you're just an asshole. I mean, what's the point? I mean, I know it's YouTube, and I know most YouTube comment sections are cancer. Luckily, my videos are not like that at all, and I take extreme pride in that, and I think that is because most of the backbone of this Yu-Gi-Oh! Community are wonderful people that do comment on my videos and such, but in every community, in every fandom, you are going to have those people that just aggressively attack shows. I for one, don't agree with it at all. I don't see what the point of it is, but yeah, so I don't think it's ruined the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. I think it's just more you have these Duel Monsters fans and the GX fans that just attack the newer shows for whatever reason. Alexis Garcia asks, if the dimensions do not combine, where do you believe Yu-Gi-Oh! 6 take, or can it perhaps be a prequel to Arc 5? I have no idea where Yu-Gi-Oh! 6 is going to take place. I don't think it's going to take place on the Arc 5 timeline. I think that would be really cool. I just don't see it happening. I think it would be cool if it was a prequel to Arc 5 where like Yusaku is, but I don't know how that happens because it seems to me, well, I guess it would have to be the original dimension, right? It would have to be that unified world before it's split into 4 that Yusaku would have to exist on, and I guess that would kind of lead into Leo Akaba and the events of Zark, but I wouldn't like that. It could be after 5Ds, because we see skateboards or hoverboards in 5Ds with the twins and that one member of not Iliaster, of Aporia. So I think it could be after 5Ds. I have no idea. I do plan on maybe doing a part 2 to my timeline theory once Arc 5 concludes and we are pretty deep into Yu-Gi-Oh! 6, or if it's in the beginning and I think I can pinpoint where it is on the timeline. But I think it's gonna, I don't know. I really have no idea. I don't think it's gonna have anything I don't think it's gonna be too related to Arc 5 in any way. Mauricio Bucardo, question for next Q&A. Which battle arena or duel scenario have been the most memorable to you from all of the series? Well, that's a good question. That has to be the last 10 minutes. I think it's actually the best 10 minutes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Of the Yugi vs. Kaiba semifinals duel. I can almost quote, without looking at the subs, that entire last 10 minutes, right after Kaiba summons Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and it goes to commercial, and then it comes back and Kaiba goes on the rant about his father and putting the past behind him. Yugi uses double magic, and then it just kind of goes on from there. That is an incredible duel, and I know I put that second in my top 5 Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters duels. That was a mistake. In hindsight, that was a mistake. That, to me, is the best duel Yu-Gi-Oh! Has ever done across all 5 shows. Again, that's just my opinion, but the emotion in that duel, but more importantly than the emotion, the musical score is phenomenal, and Yugi and Kaiba, I can't wait to see him in Dark Side of Dimensions. I just can't wait to see him go at it again. That is one hell of a rivalry. To me, that the end of that duel is some of the best, if, in my opinion, it is the best moment in Yu-Gi-Oh! That duel is just, it's incredible. Rin and Yugo asks, do you think that Heart got turned into a trading card and that's why Kite is so mad? You know, here's the thing, they've kind of just abandoned that plot line. Ever since Alan and Sayaka brought up to the XE's crew, not the XE's crew, brought up to like Yuya and the Lancers that, yeah, Kaido lost his family, they've never once re-brought that up. And that's something that's kind of baffled me now in 30 episodes. You would think Kaido would make note of it, or Kaido would open up a little bit and discuss it. And if they never mention his family again by the end of the show, that will surely be on the top 10 unexplained things in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. And I do feel that there are going to be a lot of unanswered questions, and there are going to be a lot of plot holes, which is a shame, but that's what happens when you have so many characters and you bring in these legacy characters and you try to kind of give them a purpose, and it made a lot of sense. Heart's name was never used. It could be his father, Dr. Faker. He could have been carded. We really have no idea. We just know his family was carded, or it could be completely different people, because Asuka, no mention of her brother Fubuki at all. She might not have had a brother in this world. In fact, she probably didn't have a brother, because you think if she did, you got to remember how concerned she was about him in GX. You would think she would still be concerned about his whereabouts in this show if he existed. So maybe Asuka was a lone child, and maybe Kaido has a completely different family, but that's a plot point that they have just completely abandoned for whatever reason. So it'll be interesting to see if they go back to that and they make note of it towards the end of the show at some point. Renzo Legaspi, do you have an idea of what Yusaku's ace card would be? I do not. Again, I already answered it, so I'll be quick. I hope it is not a dragon. I'd love to see a spellcaster. Maxis Heracross, who do you think would win in a battle royal between all 5 pro tags? This is without their plot luck. Also, what is Yuya's pendant? I think Yuya's pendant is something that counteracts Zark, but other than that, I don't really have too much of an answer. As to the main question, without their plot luck, I'm not the guy to ask, because this is a lot of imagining with decks and cards in real life, and I don't know the card game too well in real life. With their plot luck, it would be Yugi. There's no way Yugi would lose that. But without their plot luck, I mean, who has the best deck? It's also who would attack who. I feel like Yugi's deck, a lot of people tell me his and Judai's do not work in the real world at all. I'd give it to maybe Yuma or Yuya, maybe the newer decks, but I really don't know. That's a good question for the community down below. Colton Bolts McGuire, we've gotten 2 legacy duelists from Fusion and Synchro except for XZ's, only being Kaido. Do you think there will be a new legacy duelist from the XZ's dimension? If so, who? I do not. I was convinced there was going to be when they announced Kaido. They announced him around the same time they announced Asuka and Edo, back around episode 95, 96, when the Jack Sergei duel was going on. And I was convinced in that announcement video, I said, I'm sure we'll get a second XZ's character soon, a second Zexal character. We have not. I think it's way too late in the show to add one. It just wouldn't make sense. It's not that it wouldn't make sense, but it would be too rough. They just don't have time to add one. We only have about 11 episodes left on that basis that the last week of March is when this show is going to end, and that's when all the shows seem to end. So, unfortunately, I think Zexal, maybe because it's the most recent show, maybe because Kaido counts as 3.5 characters, but I think Zexal, unfortunately, got the short end of the stick in that regard. Do you think after Zark beats all the Lancers, Yuya trapped in Zark is freed, Yuto, Yugo, and lastly and most reluctantly Yuri all band together to defeat Zark in a duel in Zark's head or an actual duel? I would like to see an actual duel. I know a few people think they're going to duel from within Zark's body. I don't think they've ever really done that before in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'd like to see an actual physical duel. And again, I still do believe that there is a 5th entity controlling Zark that corrupted the U-Boys, and I believe it could be the 4 U-Boys taking on that one entity, but at that point, what happens with the dragons? Because Zark has all, I wonder if it would be like the versions of the dragons going up against each other, like, Servant Dragon, Odd Eyes versus Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. I think that would be really cool. It's possible. I don't want it to happen, but I think it could happen. I don't know what I want to happen, because I really don't want Rey to be the one either. I feel like that's kind of predictable. I did want that at first, but now it's like, in hindsight, it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's too predictable. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but that's the most. I would rather actually see maybe just Yuya duel, or Yuya and Yugo and Yuto duel against Yuri and this possessed guy. If there is even a fifth entity, we don't even know that for sure. So I don't know what's going to happen. I really, really have no idea. Meryl King asks, what do you think about the whole card games on hoverboards? I'm okay with it. It sucks because I would have just rathered no gimmick. I know we have the action duels in Arc 5. We didn't really have any annoying gimmick in Zexal. Not calling these annoying gimmicks, and riding duels, I guess, are kind of cool, but in 5D, some of my favorite duels were just plain old standing duels. I loved that Aporia duel. I loved that Yusei vs. Aki duel. So a lot of my duels, Aki vs. Misty even, a lot of the duels I liked were just plain old standing duels. So hopefully hoverboards don't dominate this. Hopefully we still get a few standing duels, but I'm indifferent on it. I'm honestly indifferent on it. PK Studio, the new Yu-Gi-Oh! 6 series is a new boarding mechanic we've already seen in 5D, so is it going to be the same? I don't think it's going to be the same. I think they're going to add things, maybe something similar like speed spells. I don't think, were speed spells a thing in 5Ds when the twins dueled on those hoverboards? I didn't think that they were, but it's been a while since I watched 5Ds, so maybe they were a thing, but I don't know. I'll answer the second question as well. Will we get uncut dubbed version of GX in 5Ds or maybe a new release? I don't think so. The dubbed version over here in the US is honestly so far behind. I only think it's at episode like 40 or 41. So, and it's not even getting shown on TV really. So, I don't think the dubbing is really, I don't think we'd get an uncut dub unless like a company like Crunchyroll, I think they're a dubbing company, or Funimation, one of those companies, takes over and uses the original music. But I don't think in the near future. And if they did that, I think they do for the new show. So I don't think they're going to go back and redub the old shows. It would be cool to do it without censorship and such, but I don't think it's on the cards right now. That's just my opinion on it, though. So Skylar asks, you have to pick one duelist from the anime in each situation. Who do you choose? Situation to draw a card. Yugi, absolutely. To get a monster with 10,000 plus attack onto the field. Boy, to pull off an OTK while the opponent has 10,000 life points and they have 500 or less. Yuma, because of that Don 1000 duel, so Yuma. And number 2, I'm actually going to say Kurosaki Shun. How many times has his Rise Falcon gotten over 10,000 attacks? So I'm going to say Shun, but that's hard. I like creative questions like that, so that's very interesting. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that, but that's tough. Yugi definitely to draw a card. The other 2, I guess, are more debatable, but those are my picks: Shun and Yuma. Fire Fury 190. In the beginning, Yuzu was concerned as to why her and Yuto kept disappearing whenever Yuya showed up and believed it to be her bracelet. If she had a big problem with that happening when she was trying to learn about Yuto, why did she never just take it off? It didn't have to be for the entire show, just for one encounter, just to confirm that her bracelet was the cause. I mean, the obvious answer, I guess, is just for plot reasons. The logical answer is I have no idea, because you're absolutely right. She should have taken it off, but I guess that would have ruined the plot. But sometimes with Yu-Gi-Oh, reality and logic is never really applied. But no, you're absolutely right, Fire Fury. She should have taken her bracelet off, but again, for plot purposes, she never did. She never took it off once, I don't believe. Max Cousins, hey Dylan, really like your videos, really like the enthusiasm, thank you. Would it be better to watch DSOD in sub or dub first? Like many, I grew up with the dub, and have a stronger connection with those voices, but from what I've seen of the sub, it looks like better quality. Basically asking if nostalgia will help for making a better viewing experience. I would go see the dub. I'm gonna see the dub first, when it comes to theaters. I'm actually seeing it at the New York City premiere in less than 2 weeks, but I would see the dub first, because you can always watch the sub after. I'm going to watch the sub after. I'm probably going to do a review on both the dub and the sub and say which one I liked more, which elements I liked more in which movie. But apparently there's no censorship, so you don't have to worry about censorship. The voice acting from Duel Monsters is probably the best voice acting we've had in any Yu-Gi-Oh show. So I would go, I would watch it. I'd watch it in theaters if you get the chance. I would. Hydra849 asks, how long is the Arc 5 manga going to continue for? It's a good question. I think the Zexal manga just ended literally like 4 or 5 months ago, and so I think the Arc 5 manga is going to last another 2 years. I think that's a good estimate. 2.5, 2 years. So me and Rarity will keep doing reviews, so that's how we'll have to get our Arc 5 fix once April comes along. White Double asks, do you think that Yuto would have been a better protag for Zexal than Yuma was? Well, the problem is if they used Yuto for Zexal, then they wouldn't have been able to use him for... I guess they could have used him for Arc 5, but he looked so much like Yuya, you know? And so the protagonist would have looked literally similar, and then you would have had a protagonist dying in episode 37. Do I think he would have been a better protagonist? Yuma had a connection with Astral, and while maybe I didn't love Yuma as much as I loved some of the other protags, didn't really resonate with him as much, I did like Astral, and I did understand the whole vibe that they were going for. So, in hindsight, sure, maybe more people do like Yuto, but I think Yuma was an alright protagonist, especially for what they were trying to do. So, and that's actually a really... What do you guys think? Because that's a tough question. I mean, I personally like Yuto a little more. He's maybe my favorite U-boy, but yeah, that is a tough question, honestly. It's really tough. Vanguard plays, hi Dylan, I have a couple questions. If the Synchro arc wasn't as long as it was, what arc would you give more time to? I would definitely give more time to the XZ's arc. Cut 25 episodes off Synchro, add it to the XZ's arc. Have you seen or heard of Cardfight Vanguard? I have heard of it. I've never seen it, but I've heard good things. I've heard it's kind of similar to Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a show at one point that I was thinking about maybe even doing reviews for, but probably not. I mean, because I'd want to binge watch it and watch the whole show, but maybe. I mean, I've heard good things about it. I've heard very good things about it. This was just too great because two people asked literally the same questions pretty much back to back. I didn't even have to edit this picture. Tino Scon99 asks, bro, what is after Pendulum? Ritual, please. MB Gamer 31. Do you think the 6th series will be based on ritual summoning? I hope so. I like rituals a lot. I think it's the forgotten method. But even though I hope so, I don't think so because it just seems like they don't really care for rituals for whatever reason. So as much as I'd like to see rituals, if rituals are utilized more, I'll be happy, but I don't think they're going to be like the main, I don't think it's going to be based on ritual summoning, but I still hope they do use ritual summoning and utilize it a little more than they have in the last, 5 shows, really. Kerbu97 asks, in the end of Zexal, they fly like Peter Pan. How do they fly? Olga and Halil are like Elsa and Anna and Aladdin. The creator likes Disney, right? I mean, maybe. I feel like Disney secretly controls the world. No, I'm kidding. But they definitely do have a pretty major influence. I don't know if they have a Disney in Japan, but obviously they have one in California, and California and Japan aren't that far away. I mean, they're still, you got the whole Pacific Ocean, but they're not separated by that far, by that long of a distance. And I do believe there is a Disney in China, which is, again, that's kind of close to Japan. So I believe in Hong Kong, right? I'm not 100% sure about that. But, so maybe they were influenced by it, but, you're definitely going to find connections like that because Disney just has so many characters and so many different elements that they've done. I mean, Disney's been around since I feel like the 40s. So, whether they like Disney or not, maybe they have taken influence from Disney designing some of these characters. Ali Norb, why do you think that Judai/Jaden was in Venice in Yu-Gi-Oh! Bonds Beyond Time, and in Arc 5 when they went to the Fusion Dimension, the harbor city looked like Venice? Do you think it's more than just a coincidence? I actually didn't even notice that. I gotta go back and look. I don't know why he was in Venice. I feel like that's kind of a joke in the community that he was just randomly in Venice. But, yeah, I think it's just a coincidence. I'll have to go back and watch that, though. That's something that I never even noticed, honestly. Dano, for your next Q&A, how do you hope Yu-Gi-Oh! 6 turns out? I actually hope Zark is successful in Arc 5 and it sets up the events of the next series where it's a dystopia and Yusaku saves the world from Zark's tyranny. That would be cool. Also, what do you hope to see in Yusaku's journey as a duelist since he's never dueled before? I personally want him, and I didn't click read more when I snapped this for whatever reason, but that would be cool if it does lead into Yu-Gi-Oh! 6. I don't believe it will, but I think it would be awesome if it did. I love continuity. I actually think that it's gonna turn out to be kind of silly at first. But, I don't know. I actually don't know if it'll be silly at first. It might have more of a 5Ds vibe based on Yusaku. I am going to get a lot more in depth into this because, again, we're going to be getting news next week. So I'm going to be getting a lot more information. We all are going to be getting a lot more information, and I'm going to make a formal discussion video about it. I just hope it turns out well. I hope it starts like Zexal. No, excuse me. No, I hope it starts like Arc 5/5Ds and ends like Zexal. If it does that, follows that formula, it will be a fantastic show. No Lara asks, do you see the Yu-Gi-Oh! 6 female protag falling in love with the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Protag by the end, or do you see the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Protag being a joke at first and then becoming an awesome duelist? I guess implying that if he's a joke at first, the female protag won't fall in love with him, which is kind of funny. This Yusaku apparently does not know how to duel. I think he's dueling for the first time. So it'll be interesting because Yuma also didn't really know how to duel, but the difference is Yusaku has a more mature vibe to his character. So it'll be interesting to see if people like that aspect, because they hated it in Zexal. Most people did not like that aspect that Yuma did not know how to duel. But that was also maybe because he was more of a younger character. But Yusaku, who's maybe older, and also Yusaku might start off very good right off the bat. He might pick up the dual disc and the hoverboard and be like a prodigy. So I think I don't know if he's gonna be a joke at first, but I think he's gonna have his struggles, and then by the end of the show, just like Yuma, he's going to be a very good duelist. The Yu-Gi-Oh! 6 female protag, I would rather him, Yusaku, have feelings for her, and then maybe her not have those feelings at first, and then return those feelings at the end of the show. I think that could work. I just don't want her to be, one, a damsel in distress, and two, her romance and her emotions towards him the only thing that her character has going for her. We saw Yuzu fall into that pitfall. We saw Aki from 5Ds kind of fall into that pitfall. So that's what I'm nervous about. I would like for them to tackle romance, because I think the element adds to any show, if you do it right. So I'm just interested to see her design. I hope she has a really older, badass looking design. That's what I'm hoping for, and hopefully we get that next week. Aqua Blue Hedge asks, for the next Yu-Gi-Oh! Show, do you think Yusaku may fall for the darkness like Judai, Yuma, and Yuya did? I actually don't. I think he's going to be similar to Yusei, where he might not have darkness, but he's going to be kind of a cold character, in the sense that maybe he doesn't have a lot of friends and he doesn't have a lot of confidence in himself, where Judai, Yuma, and Yuya kind of had that outside darkness. I think he's going to be like Yusei, where he really doesn't have darkness, and I hope they do it well, because I know a lot of people thought that kind of was a negative to Yusei's character. I thought it was a positive. I enjoy when characters don't fall into darkness. I think it shows that they are strong characters. Not saying that Judai, Yuma, and Yuya aren't strong characters. That's just something that I enjoy. Like, oh wow, Yusei never once really slipped into darkness. Sure, he had some moments here and there, but never like Judai, where he just murdered everyone in that dual spirit world. So I really don't think he's gonna have a spiritual connection to any other person, and I think he's gonna be just not your run-of-the-mill guy, but I think he's gonna not suffer through darkness or anything like that. Cypher Vegas asks, where do Clearwing, Dark Rebellion, and Star Venom's upgraded forms come from? I mean, did Zark ever own their upgraded forms, or did they suddenly come into existence after the dimension split? I believe they came into existence actually after the dimension split. I do, because now we have Zark, and he's using even bigger upgraded forms of these Servant Dragon, Dark Rebellion, Servant Dragon, Odd Eyes, and Star Venom, and Clearwing, you'd imagine. He hasn't used those three yet. But it's just interesting because Yuya and Yuto and Yugo and Yuri never knew about these monsters, you'd imagine. So I just think that their upgraded forms, I don't know, the way they get their hands on cards are very strange. They're very strange, right? Because you had the duel where Yuto was able to change Yuya's deck through his will. And so I don't really look too much into it, but I do believe that the upgraded forms came after the dimension split. But then you have other monsters like Raging Dragon, which is more closely linked to Zark than, Beast Eyes or a dragon like that, or Dark Requiem, I guess, is kind of a Berserk mode dragon. But yeah, I don't know. That's definitely a good question. So anyway, guys, that wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for all the questions. I hope I answered as many as I could. I hope I answered yours. If I didn't, I do apologize. Please, again, leave the Q&A at the beginning of your question and ask it down below. I will talk to you guys in the comments. Hopefully you guys choose to tackle some of these questions, and hopefully you guys just have some good questions for Q&A number 12. So, because again, this is a segment that is not possible without you guys. So thank you so much for watching, and if you're still watching to this point, give yourself a round of applause. I do appreciate it, and you just listen to me ramble on about Yu-Gi-Oh! For 45 minutes, as I do usually once a month. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.